So there we go. We've installed all those modules. Now the very first thing is let's get this thing set up and configured. The very first thing that I'm going to do, well actually, now that I go to the administrator, we can see that we might have an issue here. One or more problems were detected with your Drupal installation. Check the status report. I always recommend people doing this. And you might see an AMF error. You'll see that it says you must download AMF 1.9 beta 2 to extract the modules, blah, 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 blah. Basically what this is saying is that it does not have the AMF PHP library. Now a lot of people, this stumps them. The reason is because they usually think, okay, well I installed the module, so why am I getting this? Well, the reason is just because you installed the module, you also need to get the library, the AMF PHP library. And you do that by clicking on this link that's included. So I'm going to right click on that and open it in a new tab so that it doesn't wipe out my current page. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of time to load. It looks like the website is loading a little slow today. No, I do not want to see advertisements. So I'm just going to click on direct link since it's taken a while. So there we go. There it is finally. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just save that to our local drive. I'm going to close this out. So now what I'm going to do is open up my Finder. And as you can see, here is the AMF PHP that I just downloaded, which is the library. If I go ahead and double click on this, it's going to open it up and it's going to show another AMF PHP library or folder. And so what I need to do here is I need to add this to the AMF PHP module. Now don't get these two confused. This is the module, which is in the Drupal installation. This is the library that module uses. I know it's kind of confusing because the directories are named the same. So let's just double click on this. And then what I'm going to do is just drag and drop this AMF PHP inside the AMF PHP module. I know it's confusing, but that's what you do. So just to recap, here's the modules folder. There's AMF PHP, and then you have the AMF PHP library, and then of course you have the gateway.php. I'm not going to close that. So now if we just refresh the page, that should go away. And it does, which is great. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to enable some of the permissions. Now that we have all the modules installed, we need to make sure that the permissions are set correctly so that the Dash Media Player will show correctly and all of the stuff has permissions to do what it needs to do. You do that by going to the Administer section and then go down to the User Management and click on Permissions. This will bring up all the permissions section, which we can just scroll through here and just kind of just look at each one and just we're going to find some that we're going to need to enable. The very first one is for the node service module. We want to make sure that we check both the anonymous and authenticated users for load any node data and also load own node data. Those are important. Here's another important one that we need to check. It's called access services. What this means is that we're allowing anonymous users to use the services. Whenever a person logs into your website and is viewing the player and they're not logged into their website, they're considered an anonymous user, and we still want the media player to work. And in order to do that, we need to have access services enabled. We can also do that for access statistics. And let's see. The next one that you might want to enable, of course you don't necessarily have to, is the access all views. I go ahead and enable this just because I've had issues in the past of trying to get the media player to work with these disabled. There is a lot of work going into the latest revisions of the Dash Media Player so that you don't necessarily have to have these enabled for the anonymous and authenticated. The important thing to note here is that if you have any content sensitive views in your system, you definitely do not want to have these checked, and just wait for an update of the Dash Media Player to where that you don't have to have those checked. And so then I think we're done. So we can just click Save Permissions, and I think all of our permissions are set to make the media player work. The next thing that we need to do is we need to set up the dash config, the player configuration file. This is the one thing that I'm really going to try to streamline in the latest revisions so that you don't have to do this, because it is a little confusing. But I'll walk you through it. It's really not that hard once you get the hang of it. the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the Administer section, and you're going to click on the Services link over here on the right. From here, you're going to see a couple of links up here on the top. One that says Browse, another says that one that says Keys, and the other one that says Settings. Let's go ahead and click on the Keys section, because this is what we're going to use to create a key. Now, what we're doing here is we're actually creating an API key. So you're going to click on this Create Key link. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see this. So you're going to click on this Create Key link. So within the Keys section. The application title can be anything. I usually just like to say Dash Media Player here, but it can be anything. The important thing is the allowed domain. This is what stumps a lot of people. And the reason is because it's really kind of hard to understand the rules of how you need to add this allowed domain. Typically, the rule that I like to say is go to your home page, which for my case is http://localhost/screencast. So what I've highlighted here, is the base URL. So you take that right there and you remove the http:// from it. That's the general rule of thumb that seems to work for most use cases. So localhost/screencasts. That looks about right. Just keep in mind that if you have like www in front of like TMT Digital, like here's http www.tmtdigital, you're going to want to include this www in with the TMT Digital. So the domain would actually be what's highlighted here, www.tmtdigital.com. That's real important for the allowed domain. When we're done doing that, we're just going to click on Create Key. Let me zoom out some more. What that's going to do is it's going to add a key to here, and you'll see it's just an encrypted string that's going to be used. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a configuration of the file using this, which kind of segues into the next step, which is to actually download the media player and add it to your server. So let's do that right now. We do that by going to the Dash Media Player website. And on the Dash Media Player website, which is found at www.tmtdigital.com/project/dash_player. Once you're there, you're going to scroll down to the very bottom, and you're going to see the download right here, where it says dashPlayer download. You're just going to click on that link, which is going to bring up the download, and you're going to save it. So once that is saved, let's open up our Finder. We should see the download right here. So dashPlayer version 1.133.